Welcome back to the Great Practice, Great Life podcast. We've done a little bit of a takeover. Mark Metzger and I are going to interview Steve Riley because here's the thing that we have noticed over the course of more than 60 podcast episodes, which is that Steve has artfully avoided sharing all of the secrets that he knows because he's flipped it around saying, I'm just going to interview these great people and then no one has to ask me what I think and then I can get away without sharing anything. At least not without being paid like great sums of money. So now everyone that's listening is now going to hear all of your secrets for free because we have compromising photos of you, Steve, and we say that we have to do this or else you're not allowed to keep the show going. So welcome to your own show, Steve.
Thank you. Well, you're assuming compromising photos of me are valuable to someone, which I just can't imagine.
So most of them have already appeared in newspapers under the headline "Florida Man." ...
Yeah, exactly. Metzger been texting to my wife for years. Florida Man, where's Steve? Where's Steve? What did Steve do? Hey, did you know there's a Florida Man conference?
Yes, and a contest.
Yeah, it's a conference and contest. Like,
are you letting us know when you're not available? Steve?
Yeah, I should let you know when I am going to compete in the Florida Man contest. So yeah. So, all
right. So your own podcast, and you've been hosting 60 of these, and you've done a brilliant job at pulling out great pieces of advice, insight, things that have been helpful for people from your guests along the way. Present company may be excluded or included, depending on who's listening and what they think about our particular episodes. But we always thought that it would be really good because I think that I'm not overstating it or speaking for Mark out of turn, but both of us credit anything that we know about how to create distinctions for other people and coach for other people from you and from being not only sort of your coaching clients, but also having you as a mentor in this area. And so we thought, what better way than to sort of open up the conversation for you to share sort of some of the secrets that you've had and you've learned all across the way, really things that you maybe have been holding back sharing, not so much because you've been trying to withhold from the audience, but because no one's really given you a platform for doing that. And we thought maybe we'd be good to do that because we do know some of the secrets that go in there. We know maybe how to dislodge some of the stuff that you might be thinking for the benefit of the audience.
And Steve, I think the best place to start this is, what is it that you know about having a great practice and a great life that shocks you on a daily or weekly basis that lawyers just don't know, understand, get, or intuit?
It's a great question. I think the core of it is that the bulk of lawyers that I've met and have come into our community are running in place, and they're running in place as fast as they can. And they are busying themselves to death. Like, they're just exhausted, they're worn out, they're fried. And they usually come to us when they're at a point in time where they know something needs to change. They're not sure what. Like, something needs to change, I just don't know what. And they come to us with the intention of making more money. Like, I want more money and I can buy more time, or I need more time, but something needs to change. And the magical and most difficult thing is for them to take some time and examine, and it may be 30 seconds and maybe 30 days, to examine at the core of it what a great life looks like to them. Because most of my great growth financially, most of my great growth professionally is driven by the joy I find in my life, the joy I find in my relationships, the gratitude I find in relationships like with the two of you. And those things are reinforcement emotions, right? So I have gratitude for the two of you. Despite the grief you guys give me, I really, really gratefully appreciate the contributions that you guys have in my life. And both of you have been very clear that we're, from the moments I met you, that we're going to be friends. And Metzger, you said it to me. We were walking around Princeton at a workshop, and you had decided, you said, I've made a decision. You and I are going to be friends. And I was like, no one's ever said that to me before. So I was like, what a cool way of opening up a dialogue with somebody, I've decided we're going to be good friends. Actually, I've decided we're going to be great friends. And it's a very, very powerful thing. And consequently, the emotional charge I get from that and the emotional juice I get from the relationship with both of you really emboldens my life. It puts wind into my sails. And I think it was Friedrich Nietzsche. It said, if you're clear on your why, you can go through any how. And Simon Sinek, I think, took that quote and wrote a book around it.
Hmm.
And so for me, a lot of the why for some lawyers that are fried and tired and burned out has to be something that they take some time and start to explore. And that's not easily done because it took me a considerable period of time for me to get clear on why, I'm doing what I'm doing, why it's important to me, what's the purpose of that. And I'm probably going through another period of redesign in my life. Like the goals I set 10 years ago are now, kind of, although I set 10 years out, I'm coming to the completion phase of a significant decade, a significant planning decade. So I'm really kind of getting, and as you both know, I've come back from a month off and I'm really kind of spending some time and getting reconnected with my why. Why am I doing this? Why am I here? So if you're asking me the biggest secret, and it's probably the hardest thing, is for lawyers to get in touch with what a great life looks like, why that's the great life for them. Learn and cultivate. And that's a big word. I mean, I like the word cultivate because you have to learn, you have to relearn, because no one can tell you what your great life is. They can tell you what a great practice looks like. They can tell you what you should do to have a great career. But rarely does someone say, hey, for you to have a great life, here's the secret to your great life. And that's where I think the most power comes from. You look at both of you. You guys are great friends. You're a good friend of mine, but both of you practice very differently, completely different practice areas. You both are phenomenally great coach. But what you both have gotten is a great life that powers you in a completely different way. And I think that's probably the core secret. It sounds overly simplistic when I say it. I may not survive this part of the podcast and maybe completely edit it out because it sounds overly simplistic. But that why is the foundational heartstone. The why is the wind in the sails to plow through probably the biggest obstacle, which is your own mindset and changing your own mindset. So changing how you think, changing how your habits work, changing how your life works. So that why has to give you the wind in those sails to deal with the changes that you want, because that's probably the biggest obstacle. I think as a coach, I think really what we help people with more so than anything else is learning how to deal with change management, both in their life personally and professionally in their practice. So the why is, to me, probably the secret fuel to grow quickly and powerfully. This brings us to the business skill conversation, right? And so you guys have taught the rules, rates, utilization, leverage, expense, and speed. And probably for me, the two big levers when I was practicing was leverage and utilization. So leverage of paralegals, non-lawyers, legal assistants, associates, and managing them. So I got my utilization. And you guys know the rule of three, the performance factor rule of three. So the biggest thing that the lawyer makes the assumption is that the work won't get done. The work will get done, but not by the lawyer. It'll be done by somebody else on the lawyer's team, according to the lawyer's expectations and the standards. And that becomes, for me, the biggest breakthrough for a lot of lawyers when they realize, oh, I actually can do more work, serve more clients at a better experience for the clients if I can leverage myself, leverage my firm, and utilize the talents of other people. And once
Okay,
you
so
try
let me give you the lawyer's retort, though. The lawyer's retort to that is, I charge $300 an hour for my time. If I delegate the work to the paralegal, bill's $150, we're leaving money on the table. We're losing money because I didn't do the work.
Yeah, exactly. And what the lawyer's assuming is that they can't increase the volume. and they can enhance their rates. And so the big assumption here is a lawyer may be handling, let's say, 50 cases a year at $300 an hour. But now with the help of a great legal assistant, maybe 2 great legal assistants, now we can actually increase the volume to maybe 100 to 150. So when I was doing PI work, I could probably personally carry 25 to 35 cases. But when I was doing PI work with 2 paralegals, I could carry 150 cases, 100 in pre-suit and 50 in litigation because I had 2 great right-hand people. So I moved to more of a surgical model where I got to do what I was really good at. So the leverage here, the utilization here, the increase in rates here is exactly what you're identifying as a lawyer doesn't see how that works from a business perspective. They don't see the mechanisms, the formula, so to speak, of how that works from a business perspective. That's why you guys, the programs that you lead are so crucial because it takes a while. What do you guys think? I mean, what do you think? Victor, do you think it's an emotional game? Mark, do you think it's an emotional game?
Well, I think it probably is, but I think you hit on 2 themes that I want to dig a little deeper on, because I think for some listeners, this is kind of an esoteric discussion. And, lawyers like to pride themselves on being logical creatures, not emotional creatures. And you're inviting people into some water that seems like it's shark filled and scary. In fact, that's one of the words that I want to dig out of what you have been saying in this conversation with Victor. There's 2 core themes that I'm hearing there. One is awareness. Some people are just not aware of what they're doing to put themselves on repeat. And so it requires a step back. But then there's a fear factor that comes in there. I think that you touched on the idea that there's often a resistance to make the change that even they might be able to recognize if they applied the awareness. But the fear is, well, if I change, I might break what's already working. And, I'm sure that you've heard this 10 times more than Victor and I have, but Victor and I hear regularly from people, both potential customers for the company and customers that we're working with, will say things like, I really would like to get more money. And they believe that the path to the money is to do what they've always done, which is to work the 125-hour week and produce more money. And so when you say to them, you need to work less, what they hear is, first of all, the fear alarm goes off. If I work less, we'll have less money. That's a losing strategy. What else do you have for me? So what do you say to that? Let's just deal with the really crass issue of, I want more money, but I'm terrified to work less because that means we have less money.